Hi BookTube, my name is Juan, I am just one reader, and I am here with a Friday Reads video, so I will be talking about the books that I finished reading this week, as well as what I'm currently reading right now. The first book I want to mention is Rasmus Home by Ibsen. This is a play, and it's a very popular play, actually really famous. I have to say, I realized reading this that it's just a reality that I don't like reading theater. I don't like reading plays. I really love theater, and I think it's a very important form of literature that I can't connect with, and I am very frustrated by it. I feel like it's a skill that I haven't yet developed, and it makes me feel sad, but it's just what it is. I didn't really enjoy reading this. I really enjoyed discussing it with some of my colleagues because we actually had to read this for one of our courses on psychoanalysis and art. So I really loved the discussion during class, but the experience itself, it's not that it's a bad play. I just feel very ill-equipped to enjoy something like this. So completely for my personal faults, I gave this 1 star, not for me. The second book that I finished reading this week was Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb. This is the second book in the Farseer trilogy. It's the sequel to Assassin's Apprentice, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it was a step up from the previous one, and I thought the first book was really good, but this was far superior. I really enjoy following these characters. I thought the pacing was very successful. I think that the way that Robin Hobb uses the language and her style is very atmospheric, and it's really captivating. It feels slow and it feels moody in a way that also feels very cozy to me. I would compare this book's style with Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, which is a book that many people don't like because it's slower and it's very moody and it's sort of gloomy, and sort of different to the other books in the Harry Potter series. I would say that the writing style and the overall atmosphere in the Farseer books reminds me of that. I think that the magic is really interesting in these books, especially the way that the wit is addressed. The wit is this kind of beast magic that is very controversial and frowned upon and prohibited, and people who have this wit, who have the ability to mentally and emotionally connect with animals and bond with them, this wit is like something tainted, something perverse, and it almost feels like a taboo kind of sinful thing. And I think that the way that Robin Hobb is developing that idea is really interesting. I think this book's thesis overall is loyalty. I think this book is about loyalty in many different... I think it's an exploration of loyalty in many different respects and in many different kinds of relationships. The plot was really good. You could say that Robin Hobb's plotting is not her strongest point, and I would agree with that, but I still really enjoy the plot, and I think the ending to this book was particularly great, and I am more than willing and excited and desperate even to read the final installment in the series. So I gave Royal Assassin 4 out of 5 stars. So those are the books that I finished. Now on to the books that I have started reading today, both of which are really promising so far. The first one is Piranesi or Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. She's the author of the much celebrated Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which I very much enjoyed. I think it was my favorite book of that year. Piranesi is very short if you compare it to that previous novel by her. And this book feels quite different. It feels like quite a departure from that novel. This book so far is very mythical, feeling. It feels very imaginative and evocative and dreamlike. It makes me think back when I was young, like a very young child, and I would read short stories by the surrealist author Michael Ende, the writer of The Never-Ending Story. It feels a little bit like that. It's very dreamy, it's very surrealist, it's very like hard to grasp with your imagination what she's putting in these pages. It's very descriptive and it's very dreamlike, so you really have to let yourself go. You have to let loose and just lose yourself in the narrative. But I am really, really enjoying it so far, even though it's a very peculiar book, I will say that. The other book that I am starting today and will be reading this weekend is La Ciudad de Vapor. This is the posthumously published short story collection by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. You can see him right here. So Carlos Ruiz Zafón, he's one of my favorite writers of life. I've been reading his books since I was like 10 or 11, and every single time a new book by him would come out, it would be an event, you know. He just has one of those voices that for me has always meant so much. So he's one of my favorite authors, and he recently died. He passed away during the 2020 pandemic. He died of cancer, not from COVID, but he died during this time. And I was crushed. I really, really felt it. I was really, really moved by his parting. And now we have this book, which is a short story collection of, it's a collection of some stories that he had already published and some that hadn't been published before, so they are seeing the light of day for the first time. I just read the introduction to this book, which is really an editor's note, and that made me cry. That hit me really hard. The editor says that some writers have achieved a very particular atmosphere and a sense of like they are very evocative in their atmospheres and their styles, and therefore people develop a certain adjective to refer to that style. For example, Dickensian. When you say the adjective Dickensian, you know what you mean by that. It evokes a certain atmosphere and theme and style. And so the editor says that Carlos Ruiz Zafón deserves a new adjective, which is Zaphonian. So Zafón, Zaphonian. And he says in his introduction that this is the newest and unfortunately the last truly Zaphonian novel. That made me cry. So I'm very emotional just thinking about this book. But that's what I will be reading, and hopefully I will be reviewing some of these books separately, individually in the future. Thanks for watching. I am Just One Reader.